everyone, and welcome to the Real Estate Podcast. I'm Wendy Forsythe, Chief Operating Officer at HomeSmart International, and I'm joined today by Mike Simonsen, CEO of Altos Research. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Wendy.
Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
So, Mike, normally when you're doing something like this, you're talking about the market and housing stats and data, but today we're going to talk about something a little bit different. So, Mike has taken a lot of time and effort and a personal journey, and I think it relates so much to leadership. And you know, all of our HomeSmart franchisees and our team leaders and so many people across the country are always thinking, how can I be a better leader? And then how does that manifest across every area of my life? So tell us a little bit about what that journey has looked like for you as an entrepreneur, as a father, as a person.
Yeah, I started my company, Altos Research, 13 years ago. And, I pay attention as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, I have a family that you pay attention to how do I lead those things well, how do you grow, how do you manage, and at the same time, how do you keep yourself strong and enthusiastic? And I had a moment about a year and a half ago where I'm 12 years into the business and I'm not feeling super engaged. We all go through these cycles where we're in these points. I need to make a change. Okay. And I'd looked at a bunch of things that I wanted to try, and I made a few purposeful internal changes. Okay. And with the assumption that I could take care of the internal things first, and the other stuff would take care of itself. Okay.
So jump into the explanation, because you really got purposeful about understanding the science of your body and the emotional components of that.
That's right. That's a great way to put it.
Explain that connection.
The connection is that it turns out that there are 4 big hormones. There's about 70 hormones in our bodies that we react to personality and emotionally and things like that. But there are 4 big ones that we care about. Okay. Serotonin is the anchor, joy, contentment feeling. Okay.
The good stuff.
The good stuff.
Okay.
Dopamine is also the good stuff. Dopamine is the reward pleasure one. So when you open Facebook and you get the little red bubble, like that's dopamine, right? Like, oh, I did a clever post, like, oh, do more of that.
Right.
Dopamine, dopamine we get every day, and we have the phones and the social, like all the things, the company is all organized around dopamine. Okay. Reward the good behavior, make more calls, right? Close the deal, I close it, that's dopamine. Oxytocin is our feeling of love and bonding and social connection. Okay. And then there's cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And cortisol is, when we feel anger or anxiety.
When the deal's just not coming together, when there's a problem with the agent.
Or nothing's been working, yes, or these people are idiots, like all of that stuff. Right. That's the cortisol, and that's the feeling. And we each have different reactions to cortisol, different stress reactions.
But we all have cortisol.
Oh, we all have cortisol.
Sometimes we feel like we have too much.
And as a society, we have too much. Right. We are in a constant stress environment. We're in a world of socioeconomic stress. We're worried about money. We're made the mortgage payments. And the human body is not designed for that. The human body, in an evolutionary sense, is designed for run from the lion. Now you run. Right. Stress is on, run, stress is off. Okay.
So you're a data guy, you're a numbers guy, you're a science guy. Yes. How did you bridge all of this to now being a leader in a company? And what did you change as a result of now understanding the science and the biochemical impact that you just
described? So there was a couple of realizations that I was feeling that I needed to do. I realized, one of the realizations is that I was in a dopamine cortisol cycle. We do things well, and you get the dopamine. Make the sale, you get the dopamine. You write your plan for the year. Yeah. You start making your plan. Mm-hmm. That's dope. If you write the plan and then now you're on the trajectory where you're not going to make your plan. Now sometimes even looking at the plan generates stress. Like ugh, right. Like that's cortisol. So we're in this cycle, and I needed to break out of it. Okay. I what I realized was that I needed to focus on my serotonin, my joy, my happiness, my bringing joy to the world, giving more love and oxytocin and to my team. So I describe it as giving unconditional love to my employees. Okay. In a business sense that freaks people out sometimes.
It feels a little awkward, yes.
But what happens is, in the hormones, if we're on a dopamine cortisol cycle, you miss the goal or you lose the sale, you have that's when the pressure gets to you. Right. When we have our serotonin and our oxytocin high, we're good at what we do, that's serotonin. This is a great environment, that's serotonin. I'm doing great things for my clients, that's serotonin. Okay. I love these people, that's oxytocin. When we have that as a support, now the bad news happens, and we are strong and resilient. We actually can manage those stresses much more carefully, much more effectively.
So, as you've worked, so you kind of made this realization.
Yes.
You then wanted to make some changes in your business. You have a sales force, much like our brokers and office owners with our own agents. So how does that translate then to, in our world, to our real estate agents to try to help them have more joy, more production?
So what happened? Yeah. So the first step in one of the realizations is that the brain doesn't recognize inbound, outbound on any of this. Mm-hmm. So when I express love, I feel it inside me. When I give joy to my team, when I communicate how awesome we are, I feel it inside me.
So is that like appreciation, recognition, camaraderie? Like, how do you give love to your team? I can't even say that without giggling.
Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah, so giving love to the team is unconditional love. So in a business environment, we tend to want to give conditional love. We want to go, good job, yes, I love you, or good job, I'll give you a gift. Yeah. Right? So, we all express love, and you may have read the 5 love languages, and some of it's, we express it in gifts, and some of it's quality time, and some of it's words of affirmation. And so just like expressing love to our partner, we do that to our team. When I do that for my team, my employees, my staff, now they feel loved, appreciated, strong.
So when they're on the sales call that doesn't go the way they wanted, they're not in that cycle.
That's right.
They're able to move forward to the next sales call.
And not only that, think about when you pick up that phone when you're in a good, strong place versus when you pick up that phone and you're in a stressful place. Like everything works better. Right. So my hypothesis was I'm going to increase my serotonin, oxytocin. I'm going to express that. One of the ways I increase it in me is by expressing it to them. Right. And then we're going to let them experience it. So I did that for a full year, just inside me, and I didn't tell them what I was doing. I was just working on me. 2018 was remarkable, like amazing for me personally, for the business, the growth, sale, all of the things worked, just because I was working inside me. Got it. In the December of 2018, I brought that framework to my team, and I said, we are working on our serotonin and oxytocin, and here's how we're going to do it. Do it via things like expressing, communicating it out, also via diet and supplements, via meditation, and all these structures that we can work on ourselves to decrease the cortisol and let the serotonin and the oxytocin flow. Right. When we do that, then the dopamine is rocket fuel on top of that. Okay. If we don't have those things, then the dopamine is it feels hollow, it's like, oh, there's a goal, I don't care about it, all of those things. Right. So
you did that in December. So so far what's that been like?
So January has been off the charts for us. Okay. It is by far our biggest month ever.
Biggest month is sales
wise, yeah. Okay. It's and it's funny, I joke, it's I don't know if it's coincidence or if it's placebo. I don't care.
It's biggest sales month ever.
Yeah, it's great, and we're having a blast, right? The team is having a blast. So, and we went into our team strategy day. I said, we're not talking about features or competition. I asked them to prepare, write down 2 or 3 times that you experienced the most joy in the last week or month. And write down a couple times that how you could create joy in others this year.
Okay.
And they were like sharing with their spouses, like, look what Mike wants us to do. Like, but it was such a great day. Like maybe my favorite day of my whole professional career, because everybody was like, wow, this is amazing. I can do this. I need this. I've been thinking about my own happiness anyway. Like so much of that, we all have the wrestle.
Fascinating. So, I mean, it's fascinating, the whole biochemical part and how that interacts. And I think as leaders, like, understanding the physiology of how we act and react every day is critical.
And if you can think about what you're triggering in your team, we want to give them metrics, right? But if we just give them metrics, or if we give them an arbitrarily high metric, that is now they're going to that you miss immediately. Now that metric generates stress. It generates cortisol, so it's not effective. Now, if you have a big team, you've got 100 people or 600 people in the office, you know how many calls a day to make, like that's a good metric. But if you don't have that density, like you're just like, well, you should be doing 4 of these a day, like that's a total guess. And that tends to be, for me especially, that tends to be demotivating because you start missing it right away.
You do. Okay. So you took this whole premise and this concept and put it into a paper called Hacking Happiness. We'll link to it in the show notes so folks can go read more about this. But what would be your takeaway on sort of this journey that you've been on? How would you summarize it to the leaders that are watching?
When we have our joy, our love, basically our serotonin and our oxytocin in place, when we have those in place, all good things happen. So that's the hypothesis, right? All good things happen because you pick up the phone with a better attitude. It's like a magic. It feels like magic because you're there receptive for it. So when they're in place, all the good things happen. So that's number 1. And number 2 is that we can work entirely internally on it. We don't have to wait for an outside system. We don't have to wait for somebody to hand it to us. Like it's all an internal process.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing Hacking Happiness with us and giving this insight. I hope you all enjoyed it and read the white paper. It is fascinating, and I really do think it would help all of you as leaders out there.
I'd be glad to talk to anybody too. I'm happy to discuss it with people. I am having a good time sharing the knowledge.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for joining us.